Hi guys, Mrs. Jones here, and yes, that is my real name. And I want to show you something that I am probably the most proud of, one of the proudest moments for me as a professional. And that is this chart, which my students created back in September, and now has a permanent spot in our classroom, and it's something I'm definitely going to be doing every single September with my students. We have had an issue in our school with bullying, and so as a staff, we've really been discussing bullying and conflict. And at the beginning of the school year, our guidance counselors did a fantastic little presentation on the difference between bullying and conflict. And I'd never really thought about the difference between the two. And I thought this would make a great lesson to do during morning meeting with my students. And so we created this chart. Yeah, it's a little messy, but we created it on the fly. That I wanted my students to have a really good understanding of the difference between bullying and conflict. Because how we handle a situation really depends on if it is bullying or conflict. So these are some of the key points that we did, and this is something you can do really at any point in the school year. September is a great time, but it's also important to revisit these things back when kids come back from a vacation or when there's a new student. And what made me think of this actually is I have a new student who's got a lot of social anxiety and experienced some bullying. And her mom practically broke down in tears when she saw this poster hanging in my classroom. So I thought it was something good to talk about. So what's bullying? Bullying is when students say mean things, when they threaten, when they pretend to do something that's threatening, when they mock you, and the intent of the bully is to make the victim feel bad. Sometimes the bully will work with a gang or with a group of people, but usually the victim, not usually, the victim is alone, and they try to single out the victim. Bystanders often do nothing in the case of bullying because they are scared as well. So what do we do about bullying? Well, first of all, it's up to you to do something, and that something can take many forms depending on what the bullying is. You can just walk away, you can tell them to stop, or you can get help from a teacher. That's really, really important. You don't want to be going to your friends, you don't want to involve them at all. And then we also talked about, well, what do we call this in the real world? In the real world, this is called harassment, and it's something that you can actually go to jail for. And of course, I talked to the students about our school consequences for bullying, which is something, of course, that you will be talking about with their students. But I really wanted to emphasize that if you are being bullied, you feel scared and you feel sad. Sad and scared. And there's that picture up there of the scared, sad boy. Now, conflict looks a lot like bullying, but it usually only involves a couple of people at the first that have two different ideas about something. Okay? When you have conflict, you generally don't feel scared. Instead, you feel angry. And usually one of your first things that you want to do is you want to tell someone because you're really, really angry. And you want to get other people involved. You want them to take your side. And of course, we talked about, as a strategy, walking away is a great strategy. And you might want to get one person to help you, but that's it. We don't want this to become, what started off between two people, we don't want it to become 50 million people. And then what's the best strategy, though? Hakuna Matata. No worries. Whatever. It's okay for us to have different ideas about things. It's okay for people to feel like a game should have different rules, and they should be able to talk about the different rules that they think the game should have, and then vote and agree on them, and to not hold grudges. So in a conflict, the important feeling is anger. You know when you're feeling conflict because you feel angry and you actually want to tell other people because you're so mad. So in my classroom, what we've been doing is when a student comes to me and said another student said something or did something, the very first question I ask them is, do you feel sad or mad? And if they say, I don't know both, I'm like, well, pick which one is strongest, sad or mad. If a student feels sad, I'll usually try to get a bystander and ask the bystander how they feel. If the bystander says, well, I feel sad and scared, it was scary, then I know that bullying is going on. If they're not sure, and if they say, well, mostly mad, again, I try to get a bystander, and again, if the bystander is also feeling angry and mad, then that's probably a good indication that it's conflict. And it's amazing how asking something so simple can lead to helping kids to solve problems. And it's also helped me realize that probably 90% of the time, I would say that I thought it was bullying, it's actually conflict. And we also need to teach parents the difference between bullying and conflict. Just because your child comes home and says so-and-so called him a nasty name, that does not necessarily mean bullying is going on. It may be conflict. So I hope this makes you think about a few things, and maybe something great you can discuss with your classroom or as a school. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Bye-bye.